Sustaining Creativity podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reisberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Martin Salama, architect of the Warriors L.I.F.E code. Please enjoy Martin Salama. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity podcast. Today I am here with Martin Salama, the architect of the Warriors L.I.F.E code. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Mari. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I am so excited to learn more about the things that you do and to talk about creativity with you. And I'm sure you'll have some bits and pieces to share with us about creativity and your own experience. But before we get there, why don't you take a couple of minutes and let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Okay. So as you heard me, as you said, I'm the architect of the Warriors L.I.F.E code. And for me, life is what everything's about. Life stands for live incredibly full every day. And what I mean by that is living a happy life and a meaningful life.
Oh,
You know, you could be happy without having meaning, or you could be doing meaningful stuff without being happy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's what I do. I help people find that within themselves. Those people who have that existential crisis of, is this all there is in my life? And you know what my answer to them is? Yes, it's how you're looking at it.
Oh, I see. Okay. So how they're looking at it, there's opportunity for shifts and changes.
That's right.
Nice. Okay. And how did you arrive at the L.I.F.E code or the Warriors L.I.F.E code?
Okay. Well, I'd love to say I woke up one morning and everything was great from the day I was born, but that's not true. I'd say that it started in earnest in 2008, when many of us might remember 15 years ago, the upheaval of the financial world.
Yeah.
Well, I was one of those quote unquote victims of that. My wife and I were working on a project for 5 years to build what ended up at that point being a $15 million project.
Wow.
And we were just ready to get going with it. I put about 3 million in between myself and investors. And we went to the bank and we said, we're finally ready. We've gotten all the approvals we need from the city, from the state and all that. And we're ready to go. And they're like, yeah, we're not lending. I'm like, but last year you told me when I'm ready, just come. And they're like, well, last year we were giving money away.
Right.
Like Costco gives samples away. They didn't say that. I kind of like added that in myself. But that's really what it was like. You'd go into the bank and say, well, I refinanced 2 years ago. Can I do it again now? And they're like, yeah, we'll give you double the value. We don't care. And they'd hand over the money like it was nothing, like it was water. So I said, but I don't understand. They go, well, things are changing. A month later, September 20, 2008.
Yeah.
Bernie Madoff, subprime loans, the world falls apart. And you know where I am? At the bottom of the pile.
Oh. What a journey to be at the bottom of the pile to then rise up.
Kind of like a phoenix, right?
Exactly.
So it took me a while. I went through a couple of more downs. In the middle of that, I said, okay, about a year into it, I said, okay, I got to stop being depressed and figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I realized over the first close to 50 years of my life at that point, I was always loving to be involved in community events. I was always a leader. And people would come in and say, well, I don't know how much I could do. I said, just give me a few hours. I'll show you what you could do. And I realized I was a life coach.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, that's a business. Let me do that. And about 2 months before I started, my wife said, I'm done. I want a divorce. I'm like, oh, God. Why
Oh
does
boy.
every life keep happening to me? Why does all this keep happening to me?
Mm.
And then God kind of tapped me on the shoulder. He said, well, it's time for you to figure things out. Go to life coaching school for you, and then you can maybe help other people.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. I went there and I learned that over the first 50 years of my life, I was a people pleaser.
Mm.
And the funny thing was, I was pleasing no one.
Oh, surprise hook.
Surprise! Because when you try to please everyone, you please no one. But
Yeah.
also because of that, I was a control freak. I took
Mm.
everything personally. I was always looking for the recognition because as a people pleaser, you want people to say, oh, you're the greatest guy in the world.
Right.
And when all those things didn't happen, I was like a freaking cannon. I would just lose it. you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
I started to realize that these things were not good. And they said to me in coaching school, you don't have to stay who you think you have to be. You can change.
Mm-hmm.
And I read the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, don't take anything personal. And I'm like, oh, really? I don't have to? And that opened the door. And
Wow.
I stepped both feet in and never looked back.
I love it. I love the invitation that you accepted
Yep.
to look at things differently, do things differently, and like a testament to, I think so many people choose to not do their own work and still be the life coach. So
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
on you for like
What good
doing
is
the
that?
work.
What good is that? So yeah, I know. Yeah. But for me, it was me understanding that I got to change and that things are not happening to me. They're happening for me, but more importantly, they happen through me.
Ah, yes. Okay. I I love all of this. It's fantastic. I'm
Thank
so
you.
curious with this view of things happening through you. They don't happen to you. What does it mean to you to be creative?
So that's a great question. And I think what it means to me is being open to the opportunities around you and
Ooh.
saying, what can I get out of these opportunities instead of looking for the problems?
Mm.
One of my mentors, who's an unbelievable author, her name is Genevieve Davis. She writes these books called Magic, Becoming Magic, all about magic. And she says, the world is as you see it. So if
Mhm.
you want to see the world as a terrible place with a terrible president, whoever the president is, then that's what you're going to see.
Yeah.
I personally see the world as a beautiful place, and I don't care who the president is because it's not going to affect my day to day.
Yeah. Okay.
Just as an example in the bigger picture.
Sure. Sure. And that idea that creativity is being open to opportunities and not problems. I
Right.
love that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Thank
I
you.
I think that's a great way to kind of see creativity and how it can show up in your
Mhm.
life. And I'm curious, because of being open to opportunities, what is your experience of surprises? Are you someone who likes surprises or hates surprises?
I love surprises. I've always loved surprises because in the old days, I used to get like extremely excited in
Yeah.
a good way. Just like I would get extremely mad, I was always the extremist.
Yeah.
Now, when surprises come, I'm like, even if it's a bad surprise, let me figure out how to turn it into something good. And if it's a good surprise, how can I keep my balance so that I don't take it too personally on a positive way either?
I'm struck by you talking, the kind of term that came to me is like you're an alchemist of like
I
turning
was thinking
things.
about changing myself to the alchemist of the Warriors Life Code
Oh, well, I love it. But
because it's a mix of magic and science. That's what
it
alchemy
is.
is, right?
It totally is. And I mean, and so much creativity that shows up in that mixture of
Yeah,
science and magic. And
right.
we get to follow ideas and paths and change things and learn things. And but
Right.
having gone through the high highs and the low lows and working with people who experience challenges, and sounds like you've had your fair share of challenges in your life,
Yeah, I've only shared with you just a couple of snippets.
Just a few. Yeah. How do you face those creative challenges when they do show up?
So it's interesting the way you put it with creative challenges, because I'm always faced with creative challenges because I'm always trying to create something new, manifest it, create it. And there are times that you're like, it's just not happening. And it's at those moments that I have to remind myself that I'm putting too much emotional pressure on the situation.
Mm,
And that if I let go of the outcome, of the need for the outcome, the answers will come to me.
mm. So letting go of the need for the answer,
Right.
you'll get the answer.
Right. Exactly. There's something I teach in my course.
Mhm.
I call it the cycle of A's. Okay. It takes the law of attraction to another
Yeah.
level. So
Okay.
the law of attraction is think about what you want, ask the universe for what you want, and it'll come.
Uh-huh.
If it was so easy, everybody would do that,
That's
right?
true.
And when it doesn't work, the people who look at it and go, "Oh, it's not working." Well, to me, there's another two A's. The first A is ask,
Ah.
right? Ask the universe for what you want.
Mm-hmm.
God, the universe, whatever your higher power is.
Sure.
The next one is act. Start doing the work to get what you want. Say, I
Mm-hmm.
want $1 million. You're not going to open up the door in the morning on March 17th and the leprechaun's going to be there saying, "Hey, Mickey, here's your money." It don't work that way.
Sure.
Okay, so you got to put a plan together. But
Yeah.
here's the most important part. The last A is attitude.
Mm.
Have a mindset of, I don't care. You hear the sirens?
I can hear them. That's
Yeah.
fine.
We're in Brooklyn. So have an attitude of, I don't care about the outcome. I'm
Oh,
not emotionally tied to the outcome.
so much easier said than done.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No
That
question.
attitude, not being attached to the outcome. Yeah. So
Because you
how,
know what happens when it's not going the way you want? It's probably the universe or God telling you you need to make a course correction.
ah, okay. An opportunity
Well,
to try something different, to get a little creative.
right. It's so funny. People tell me God didn't answer my prayers. I said, yes, he did. He said no.
And why wouldn't that be a valid response, right?
Right. Because he doesn't think that that's what you need right now in your life.
I see. Okay.
But
I love
also the more lack you put to it, the more desperation you put to it, the more chances are you're not going to get it.
yeah, this is true.
So that's my answer to what happens when I get into that creative
Those
conundrum.
creative challenges. Yeah. No, I like the formula and the reminders. Very, very helpful. Now, you strike me as someone who has a lot of energy and a lot of creativity kind of happening all the time. But what's your earliest memory of being creative?
Oh, that's an interesting question. My earliest memory of being creative, I would have to say that it probably happened when I was, 12, 11, 12, 13, and coming up with ways to make money.
Ooh.
Like I was telling somebody recently, and I don't know how I remember this. My friends and I started what we called a sticker club. We would send letters to big companies, Coca-Cola, STP, which was a company back in the 70s. Okay, in the 70s, right? And different companies like that. And who's the Green Giant? Remember the Green Giant?
The Jolly Green
Jolly
Giant.
Green Giant, right.
Yeah.
So we'd send letters to them. Please send us stickers and please send us whatever you would like, whatever you can. And we would get these answers back from the companies with stickers, and then we would sell them.
Entrepreneurial from a very young
That's
age.
it. So we had it the sticker club.
I love it. Whose idea was the sticker club?
I don't remember. It might have been mine. It might have been Michael Ortiz. It might have been A.B. Mastery. Who knows?
Who knows? But you all had this idea to
Yeah.
write these letters and get like that's ingenious to say we're going to write letters to these huge companies and ask for things and let's see if they send it to us.
That's right. Yeah. So I'd say that's pretty the early memories that I can come up with.
I love it. How do you feel that kind of that energy of asking or putting yourself out there that you've kept into adulthood?
Oh, I would say from when I was in my 20s till I was close to my 50s, asking was my biggest fear.
Oh, okay.
I was always afraid to ask. And that had to do with my fear of rejection,
Yeah.
my the desperation to get what I want. So I'd
Mm,
be afraid to ask because if I didn't get it, I felt like I was a failure.
right.
But the funny
Personalizing
thing
the.
is, and looking back now, I've done a lot of introspection over the last 20 years, 10, 15 years. When it came to being in the community events, I had that mindset of let's do the best we can and whatever happens, happens. And I
Mm.
wouldn't be afraid to ask anybody for anything because it wasn't going to be for me.
Oh, so when you were kind of shifting what you were asking for and
Yeah,
how you
it
were
came.
asking.
It came easily to me. So
Yeah.
now I try to channel that in me with everything I do.
Okay.
Now that I tapped into it, I was like, okay, let me now figure out how to use it for me without feeling the emotional tie to it.
Yeah. So, what are some of the strategies that you can disconnect that emotional tie? Because I think oftentimes they're so connected and interwoven that teasing it apart is really difficult.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with have a lot of things going. Because
Oh.
I call it the cycle of AIDS because I find it like a perpetual cycle,
Mm-hmm.
right? You started thinking about things, working on things, and then say, okay, whatever happens, happens. And then when they don't happen, you're not going to get upset about it. But for example, uh, for the last 2, 3 years, I've been thinking I want to do a TED talk. And now I've developed myself to the point where I've put together a TED talk and I started to send out the applications. And my feeling is that within the next 6 months, I'll get one. And if I
Mm-hmm.
don't, then I'll get one as soon after that.
Yeah. Okay. So the idea of having lots of things going on, so you're not every
Obsessing.
egg is in one
You're
basket.
not obsessing over one.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, it from your life stories, the pieces that you've shared, it sounds like you're a very hard worker and someone who's very dedicated. And I'm curious who or what is inspiring to you these days?
Whew. I think what's inspiring to me these days, I mean, I've gotten inspired by people like Genevieve Davis,
Yeah.
the story of Joseph Campbell, The
Hmm.
Hero's Journey, and other people like that, Miguel Ruiz. But what inspires me every day now to go forward is that I want to leave a positive legacy
Mm,
of showing people that it's all up to them what they do with their life. So
mm,
getting my message out there and sharing it and getting remarried. I got married about again 5 years ago,
okay.
and it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
And so having all those things and understanding that the things that I did the first time didn't work and making sure I don't do them again.
Getting creative.
Yeah, listen, one of the things that came out of my divorce is I moved out of the house
Yeah.
and I'm Orthodox Jewish. So I'd have my kids every other weekend.
Hmm.
And my ex lived in New Jersey and I lived in New York. So my
Yeah.
kids would come to me every other weekend. And they're like, Dad, we don't always want to go to your sisters or your mother or grandma for dinner. I said, okay, well, if you put up with my learning how to cook, then
Yeah.
great. And now I love to cook.
Ah,
As a matter of fact, right before I came on here, I
yeah.
was upstairs because I my office is in the basement. I was upstairs making chicken paprikash for dinner.
Oh, how fun. I mean, I love the like. I think many people would look at that situation and say something to the effect of, oh, I'll never be able to cook. I'll never learn how. I'm too old. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, etc., etc. But how you looked at this situation and said, okay, opportunity to
Yeah.
learn something new. And
The one thing, the biggest lesson I think I learned from my divorce is that you've got to learn to adapt.
oh, how does adapting show up in your life currently?
Well, every day I'm faced with something that I've never done before,
Yeah.
right? It could be anything. And I have to look at it and say, can I? Or should I use the old word I used to word all the time? I can't.
Hmm.
And as soon as you say you can't, you're defeated.
Yeah.
So instead, say, how can I?
Ah, that little change.
That's it.
Asking those questions. I was just talking to someone else about what question you can ask yourself to kind of ignite curiosity or
Yep.
new opportunities. So,
To me, the top of the line is how can I?
how can I? How many times a day do you ask yourself that?
5 or 6 at least.
5 or 6 a week. That's great. I love it. Keep yourself, active in the.
Yeah, I'm always having conversations with people that I'm saying, well, how can I figure out how to work with this person? Or how can I get the most out of them that I can get the most out of me? All those kind of things. I'm
Yeah,
always looking for win-wins.
nice. Okay. And working with as many people as you do, I'm sure you come across people who have maybe more of a I can't mentality, or I'm not creative,
Right.
or I that's not something that I would do. How would you encourage others to find the how can I, or find creativity in their life?
Well, one of the things I do in my course when I'm working with somebody
Hmm.
is I ask them, are you ready to admit what's not working?
Such a powerful question.
And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you came to me for some reason,
Hmm.
right? Are you ready to? So as part of my course, I call it admission, cleansing, and celebration.
Okay.
So admission is admitting the way you're living now isn't working. So
Mm,
I've got to change something, or else you could easily quote Albert Einstein, who said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and looking for different results.
yeah.
It's paraphrasing.
Yes.
I'm off on the words, but you get it.
I do. Yeah.
You got to expect change. If you're not going to do anything different, don't expect change.
Mm,
So, are you ready to admit that the way you're living now isn't working? If
mhm,
you are, let's do a little deep dive and see what isn't working, and really, just as important, what is.
mm.
Because it doesn't mean we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
So true.
All right.
Yeah. Do you find that people like jump in, or is this like a slow process for people?
Yes.
Ah, ah,
Both. It's
both.
both. But here's the thing: the people that jump in, I tell them, you're jumping into the deepest part of the pool.
Yeah.
If you're not ready to swim, you will drown,
Hmm.
which means you'll give up.
Right.
So get ready for long-term transformation if you want sustainable results.
Hmm. That's a great reminder. Long-term transformation for sustainable results. I think we live in a culture and society that wants things now or wants things yesterday. And
Instant gratification. Yeah.
yes, instant
Don't you
gratification.
wish we could snap our fingers and lose 30 pounds? How great would that be?
Everyone would do it.
Go take Ozempic and then find out what happens when you get off Ozempic.
Ah,
It's the same thing.
yeah. So being able to delay gratification and do some work to put in the energy and effort to have that sustainable outcome that you are looking for.
Right.
A
I
great
call the
reminder.
old me was Martin 1.0. I call myself 2.0. And my wife, when she hears stories from my kids,
Yeah.
She's like, I never want to meet that guy. I said, oh, don't worry, he's dead.
He's not around.
He's never coming back. Ding dong, the witch is dead.
Ah. Fair. Totally fair.
Which old
Oh my
witch?
goodness. I love this. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I just have one last question for you.
Okay.
What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
Wow. Let's get a little deep here. What does it feel like? It feels like when I wake up in the morning, this is my routine, and I think it sets me up for the day. I get up and I write down 3 things in a good notebook, like a moleskin.
Sure.
3 things I'm grateful for. Then I pray. I do the Jewish traditional prayers. I put on the tefillin, the whole thing. And there's a part when you wrap it around your finger where God is betrothing himself to you in all different kinds of ways. That's my moment of closeness to God. And then when I'm finished praying and I'm settling down, exercising, whatever, I say my mantra, which is I live incredibly full every day. And like I said, that means happy and meaningful. So to me, my body feels in the creative when I start the day off that way, saying, okay, bring it on.
I love it. I love the process and the alignment and the energy and that experience of setting yourself up for success in life and creativity. And
yeah, you could just as easily get up and say, oh my God, I got to go to work. Oh my God, I got to get out of bed. Oh my God, I got to exercise. Why didn't you say, oh my God, I get to go to work?
Right. You get to change.
I get to wake up. Think about what the opposite thing is. You could be 6 feet over or 6 feet under. Which would you prefer to be?
So true. Very, very true. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. And if people want to learn more about the programs you have, things that you offer, how could they go about finding you?
So I made it easy. I have a website called connectwithmartin.com.
Great.
That's simple. And you can get a bunch of things there. My book's about to come out called Warrior to Warrior, because I show people how to go from being a warrior with an O to a warrior with an A, because my Brooklyn accent screws it up.
I love it.
And I've recently come out with a card deck.
Oh, nice.
Which has things like admissions, cleansing and celebration, the cycle of haze, and a bunch of other things in there. So you can go there and get those. And it's a great way to see if you want to work with me. You spend $50, and if you like it, great. If you don't, okay, it was $50.
That's great. I love it. I will put that in show notes.
And there's free gifts there too. For those who don't want to spend any money, there's free gifts too.
Perfect. We'll put that link in show notes so people have easy access. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me this evening. It's been a real treat.
Thank you. I've had a blast.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.